All right, so welcome everybody, and I'd like to say thank you for attending tonight's virtual public hearing, meeting for the Northeast St. Albert Area Structure Plan. The meeting tonight is hosted by Landrex and Investec Consulting. Next slide, please. Before we start talking about the project, I would like to introduce the project team who is behind this proposed concept. So starting with Investec Consulting, let's get Stephen to introduce himself.
Hello, I believe you all have received correspondence from myself. My name is Stephen Yu. I'm the manager of planning at Investec.
And then myself, my name is Lilith Holder, and I'm a planner with Investec. And then moving on to Patria.
Patria Chamney with Investec. I'll be the project manager for this development.
And lastly, we have Rob with Investec.
Hi, Rob Dolovit. I am the engineer with Investec.
And today with us, we have a Mike from Landrex.
Mike Yocum, representative from Landrex.
Additionally to the project team, we have some representatives from the City of St. Albert present at tonight's meeting, and they're here to see what discussion developments we will have tonight. Next slide, please. So today's agenda, we will tackle some housekeeping items before getting into the project meat and potatoes, and then we'll finish off with a summary of the presentation and open the floor to some questions you may have. Next slide, please. So as mentioned a couple of times earlier, this meeting is being recorded with the public and the private chat boxes included. However, only the video portion of this recording meeting will be posted on the City of St. Albert website later on. If you could please mute yourselves until the question period. And there are two ways we recommend you ask questions during this meeting. So the first way, you can type in your questions in the chat box and we will get to them at the end. Or if you would like to speak, feel free to raise your hand during the question period and we will call you for your questions. So the way you can do that is if you look at the bottom of your Zoom screen, there is a reactions tab. And then if you click that, there's a raise hand option. All right, next slide. Once this presentation is concluded and you've had a chance to participate in tonight's meeting, we encourage all the participants to fill out this online feedback form. You can use it to provide any ideas or feedback you may have, and you can also use it to rate your experience at the public meeting tonight. So what you can do is you can actually use your phones to scan this QR code on the screen. And in a case that your phone does not support that feature, I am going to post for everyone to see a direct link to this survey. And we will email you the link as well after the meeting is concluded. And if you have any problems at all accessing or filling out the form, please reach out to us and we will help you in any way we can. The contact information for our team will be available at the end of the presentation. Okay, next slide. So let's get into the project. Here's some background items to start off with. The plan area is bounded by Township Road 544 to the north. We have Sturgeon County to the east. We have the neighborhoods of Erin Ridge North and Erin Ridge to the south. And to the west of the plan boundary is the St. Albert Trail. Two major ways one can access this plan area is through Neil Ross Road from the west and from Belrose Road from the south. And with that, I'm going to pass on this presentation to Stephen Yu, and he will continue. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lilith. Sorry, I'm just trying to let people in while I'm doing this at the same time. So next we'll be going over the planning framework to identify how a new area structure plan would fit with the city's current planning framework. and planning documents. At the top of the planning framework is the city's municipal development plan called Flourish. Many of you might be familiar with it as it was recently adopted by council earlier this year. The municipal development plan lays out the high-level land uses for the entire city. Below this are the area structure plans, which look at specific areas in the city, such as Northeast St. Albert, and refines the high-level land uses identified within the municipal development plan. So these are things such as how major roadways will be located. Similarly, oh, sorry, I lost my spot. So below this is area structure plans. So they will look at specific areas within the city, such as Northeast St. Albert, and they refine the land use concept set out in the municipal development plan and to more detail. Neighborhood plans, which are a sub-plan of the area structure plans, look at a specific area within the area structure plan, such as a quarter section, and refines them a little bit more, such as identifying local roads. So these plans are all implemented together through the land use bylaw by guiding redistricting and subdivision applications for these lands. And that process also informs the development permit and building permit process. So today we are focusing on the second bubble here, which is the area structure plans and neighborhood plans. Diving a little deeper into the city's area structure plan process, it all begins with the background research, such as the preparation of supporting reports, collaborating with the city and external agencies to understand the constraints and opportunities for them. From the background information, a draft land use concept can be prepared. These are the first steps before consultation to gather feedback on the land use concept and to understand how it can be refined from residents and landowners. Following that, a technical report on how the plan will be developed is prepared and what the different land uses mean, while the land use concept is refined further through the feedback that we received from today. All this information is then submitted to the city for their review and circulation in order to inform the preparation of the draft area structure plan. Revisions that result from the review will then be completed to the technical report, as well as the supporting reports and the land use concept. As required, an open house may be held. Once the draft area structure plan is ready to be presented to council, a public hearing will be scheduled, landowners and residents will be notified, and this will be all done prior to council's decision to adopt the proposed area structure plan. So the stages identified here in gold, this one, and this one, are the key opportunities for consultation. Now, I believe many of you are quite familiar with area structure plans as your current neighborhood falls within one, such as Aaron Ridge. However, the city is currently pursuing a two-tier system consisting of an area structure plan and a neighborhood plan. The intent is to have an area structure plan that covers larger areas than before, with neighborhood plans being adopted for a small area, similar to what an area structure plan currently are today. By doing this, Northeast St. Albert can be cohesively planned as a whole in order to see the bigger picture of how the overall transportation system will work, how all the land uses will generally work together, how the land will be serviced, and the interface between the planned neighborhood and the existing neighborhoods around them. So going to some project history, the city has been in the process of annexing land from Sturgeon County for the past couple of years. These are the lands identified in red. So this area right here. The Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board has also adopted a growth plan in 2017, and that has a focus on things such as compact development, efficient infrastructure, economic competitiveness, and preserving natural living systems. The preparation of new area structure plans are required to meet the policies within the growth plan, including meeting the target residential density of 40 units per net residential hectare. This is what you've already been seeing in newer neighborhoods in St. Albert. And lastly, the city recently repealed and updated its municipal development plan called Flourish, as I previously mentioned. The image on the screen is the high-level land uses identified for the city.
Stephen, can we please stop for a moment? I think we have someone that's trying to talk over and may not even be aware, so we'll try fix that before you go on.
So I don't understand why I can't.
Try that. Hopefully that gets rid of some of the background noise and everyone can still hear me.
That sounds great. Thank you, Stephen.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, so the image on the screen right now is the high level land uses identified within the municipal development plan. And as you can see, one of the core sections, this one right here, which is in the city's current boundary, is one of the pieces of land identified to be within this proposed area structure plan. So why are we here today? We are here because there is a proposed new area structure plan for Northeast St. Albert being, and we represent the lands identified in this gold stripe area here. And we are also here because we are here to gather feedback from residents and lenders within and around the plan area. As you can see, this land includes, this plan area will include lands within both the current St. Albert boundary and as well as lands in the soon to be annexed area. The area in gold is also the boundary for the proposed neighborhood plan within the future area structure plan. So that'll be this area right here. So far, a variety of supporting reports have been started. Some of these reports were completed for the entire area structure plan area, while the majority of them were prepared for the neighborhood plan area, which was that gold area. Supporting reports completed for the entire area structure plan were done at a desktop analysis level and did not include any field work. While these are in the works in progress, amendments to the city's existing policies, such as the municipal development plan, will be required to include the annexation lands once these lands are annexed. So now that we've gone through a lot of the background, we'll be moving into the proposed land use concept for Northeast St. Albert. This concept includes a variety of land uses, including residential, commercial, park spaces, storm ponds, and a special study area. Before we get into more detail, we do want to preface that the land use concept is preliminary and could change based on the feedback we received today. And the supporting reports and the city's review process. So the residential lands, which are the yellow lands that are the predominantly through the lands concept, they are broken out into different lands, which are the low density, which are the yellow, sorry, the medium density, which are these darker browns, and then the high density, which are the darkest browns here. So low density, which is the predominant land use, would include things such as single detached homes, semi-detached homes, and duplexes. Medium density would be your typical, would be more of your low-rise apartments and row housing, while your high density would be more of your mid-rise apartments. Commercial lands, which are the ones in red here, here, and here, would be kind of more of what you see along St. Albert Trail. So this could include things such as grocery stores, restaurants, and retail stores. One institutional site is identified right here in the blue, and that is the current site of the Christ Community Church, St. Albert. The mixed use areas are the pink areas here, here, and here. And they would consist of a mixture of commercial, residential, and other land uses, and that could be things such as retail or stores on the ground floor of the building and residential above it. There's also an urban village in this blue area right here. And that is a special area of mixed use that is envisioned to include recreational and commercial uses. These purple areas over here in the top there would be similar to what you see in Campbell or the Real business parks, and be a place for warehouses, offices, and other small manufacturing businesses, for example. 2 school sites were identified within the plan area. However, no details are confirmed for either school site at this time, such as size or number of students. But the site that's closer to St. Albert Trail, which is this one right here, has been sized to accommodate a potential future high school. Natural areas have also been identified throughout the plan area from a desktop analysis, and that includes wetlands and like treated areas, but would require additional field assessments to further delineate and assess them. Storm ponds are located throughout the plan to facilitate servicing of the area. So far, a total of 6 ponds are identified. And finally, a special study area was identified for River Lot 37. This land is located along the Sturgeon River and within the river's floodplain. Natural areas were identified on this land. However, no field assessments were completed to date to be able to understand the opportunities and constraints of the land. The land is identified as a special study area in order to ensure that more studies are completed and would require an amendment to any plans in place at the time. So in summary, the intent for tonight's meeting is to establish a startup for the new proposed area structure plan for Northeast St. Albert. Unlike previous neighborhoods, this area structure plan is for a much larger area than previous plans. And as the city is looking to introduce neighborhood plans that would refine smaller areas within it. We are hoping to collect your feedback today on the information presented. We have provided the survey via the QR code, and Lola will repost the link in case there are some chat things that have come up since. The survey will be available until October 4th. And as well as the information with a link to the feedback form, as well as where you can find this recorded presentation, will be emailed to everyone who registered tonight. So we just want to thank you all for listening to the presentation. I'm sure you all have quite many questions that you would like to ask, and we have quite a large group. So we do ask, as mentioned at the beginning, if you could raise your hand using the reactions function or type your question into the chat. And we'll be happy to answer your questions. Lilith will be calling people by name. So when's your turn? So I guess if you are unable to stay for the remainder of the presentation, please write your question into the chat. We will get to it, and you'll be able to see an answer via the recorded presentation later. Lilith, I guess if you have a chance to go, let us know who has a question, and we'd be happy to answer those questions.
Sounds great, Stephen. And depending on how this goes, if there's an equal amount of chat and raised hands, I will try to alternate to make sure everyone is heard. However, right now we have Liam Connolly here with a raised hand. Liam, please.
Good evening, all. I'm sorry I made it a bit late, but I'm glad I made it tonight to look at this. So I've been following this, and it's interesting now that we're finally going to look at developing what's his name's farm area that's been sitting there for some considerable time. One of my concerns has always been traffic flow in this whole area. And I've always said this to any of the councillors and people over the years, and they've heard me. If we are able to complete the 127th Street issue and connect all of that up, I've always said a lot of the issues that the traffic through Aaron Ridge, Oakmont, Belrose would start to alleviate. So my question is, I see 127th Street noted on the plan, connecting in with Neil Ross Road and Belrose, as per the previous transport plan that's been in place for some time. So what's the timeline for completing 127th Street as part of all of this area structure plan? Is that going to be done sooner than later? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Patria, I think this one might be perfect for you. So I'm gonna throw it over to Patria.
Thanks, Stephen. Currently, the 127th Street alignment has been done as a functional plan within Strathcona County, or sorry, Sturgeon County. Apologies. And unfortunately, at this time, we don't control that timeline. I'd like to tell you it was going to happen immediately, but unfortunately, I don't have access to that information yet.
Right, thank you, Patria.
Oh, wait, well, I think Liam had a follow-up. I think he's on mute though.
Yeah, sorry,
okay.
You're still on mute, the famous line of Zoom calls for the past year and a half. Maybe Patria, I'll put my email and stuff. Maybe we can converse about that later. If you're able to find that information, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Thank you, Liam. And just for those participants who are raising their hand, whenever a question is answered, could I please ask you to put down hand? I think that's the official name of the function. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to go next to a chat question from Matthew here. What would low density housing look like behind Edgewater Terrace amongst the nature area? is that natural area the trees that are existing?
So thank you for that question. I believe we're talking about this area here. If I'm not, then please correct me. But yeah, so the natural areas, those natural areas are the existing trees that are there. They were identified by our environmental consultants from a desktop analysis. Am I unmuted? Oh yeah, I'm muted. Perfect. However, we did not do any field studies, so it's really hard to tell exactly what's going to go in there. But in terms of that residential, low density residential housing, what would it look like? Probably something similar to what's already there, however, built in with it. However, I know that landowner is likely at this meeting as well. So based off his feedback, that land use area might change based off of what they have to say.
Perfect. It sounds like there are no follow-up questions to that answer. So I will go next to Martin Kopp. My apologies if I'm mispronouncing your last name.
No, that's quite all right. So I have a few questions. The proponent's land, I guess you've shown us, is in the top northwest quadrant. And is that Landrex you've said is the proponent, or Landrex Aaron Ridge?
That's correct. It is Landrex, yes.
Okay, Landrex Inc. is the proponent. Is part of the project going to be getting a water license from Alberta Environment and Parks?
Do you mean like a Water Act approval?
Yes, which they've already had to obtain Landrex for the property directly south. And then even for the property you've identified as the proponent's property, are they going to require further Water Act licenses?
The short answer is yes. Any approvals that we need from Alberta Environment that are required for this land, we will be getting those approvals, yes.
Okay, and then one last follow-up is surface water from the north of the land that you've indicated, the proponent's land, but also the quarter section directly to the east. That is the drainage, I guess, channel or catch basin for water from the north. Am I right that the plan is for an outflow to be to the Sturgeon River? Is that right?
I'm going to throw over to Rob too, because he's the engineer on this. So Rob, floor is yours.
Martin, there's some studies already done here, and well, currently we have we do have a drainage easement along the road right of ways. Ultimately, though, the entire surface area would be dealt with by stormwater management facilities that will direct its way down to the Sturgeon River, correct?
Right, because, sorry, Rob, right now there's the bypass ditch.
Correct.
Okay, and so eventually the bypass ditch will no longer be utilized. What will be utilized is there will be an outflow eventually to the Sturgeon River, correct?
Correct, ultimately.
Okay, thank you.
That can control discharges, yep.
All right, thank you, Martin. Thank you, Rob. Next question is a chat question from Jeremy. Is all the land already owned or has been purchased by Landrex?
So the short answer to that is Landrex owns the quarter section that we identified in the neighborhood plan, which would be this one in the northwest here. The rest of it is owned by a variety of landowners.
Thank you. Next up is Heather Mcewen.
Hey there, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, excellent. I wanted a little bit more information about the special study area. I think, Stephen, you had made the comment that, yes, of course, there'd have to be more study done, and then there would be amendments necessary. I'm just wondering what the process is around that. If there's more studying to be done, but this is the first of our 3 available public consultations, I'm just a little concerned about how we would have the opportunity to provide the feedback depending what you guys decide to do there.
Yeah, so I guess the short answer is that right now nothing's being decided for that, and the intent is that it's going to stay a special study area for right now. Because we don't have access, we don't represent the landowner for those lands. We are currently leaving it as a special study area because we don't know, because we haven't been able to study it. That also isn't within the neighborhood plan that we are going to be pursuing in the future. So if this proposed area structure plan, when it gets completed, the draft and everything, there will be writing in the plan and direct about the things that would need to be done before that area could even be looked at. We understand that from the feedback we've heard, that there's an interest of extending the trails in that area, preserving the area because it is within the floodplain. So we do understand that there are a lot of those interests for the area. But if you have that kind of feedback, please provide in this feedback form to hear if a lot of residents have that same interest and thoughts, then the city would be very happy to hear that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Stephen. The next question is from Rob and Audrey. That's from the chat box. At what stage would the roads be realigned? I'm thinking in particular Coal Mine Road.
Tria?
I love that I get to be the road person today. The construction of Neil Ross Road, so I'm not sure if we're talking Old Coal Mine Road where it connects to Neil Ross Road. In there is, I believe, some ongoing discussion between the city and the developers in the area. By that I mean Landrex, regarding the construction of this roadway. There is a concept plan that has been done, which this road follows. However, again, for construction timing, there are many steps that need to be taken through there. It does go through someone's land, and we need to make sure that they're generally on board with the alignments and understanding that. And then it would have to go through the city's approval process. So it's not going to be a fast. I couldn't tell you that next year you'll be driving down Neil Ross Road all the way from Old Coal Mine. It's going to take some time, but as a specific schedule, I cannot provide that at this time.
Thanks, Patria. Rob and Audrey, if you have any follow-up questions, please write in the chat. Next, we will go to Don with his raised hand. Don Thompson.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. My question is with respect to also the special study area. I've lived in this region for about 10 years. I can tell you that the vast majority of that area floods about once every 4 or 5 years. My view is that that area should be attached to the Red Willow Park system and should be left as environmental reserve and not developed at all. It would be an absolutely awesome addition to the Red Willow Park system of the city of St. Albert, and there is utterly no way that area can be developed. So there's my 2 cents worth.
Thank you so much for your feedback, Don. I know we've emailed a few times about that, so I'm glad that you were able to attend and provide that feedback for everyone here. We have taken it in as it currently is a special study area that will, one, prevent anything from being developed in there if this land use concept doesn't change and gets adopted that way. But right now that's what we're looking at.
Many, many thanks.
Thank you, Don. Thank you for your time, and please feel free to fill out that feedback form online. Patria, just a follow-up question from Rob and Audrey. Is the current Coal Mine Road off of Belrose Road or Drive? Sorry.
Marvin, how long till dinner time?
Just wanted to verify. Again, that connection goes through land that we don't currently control or own. So for me to say what the timing would be on that development is presumptuous. There's further study that would be required through neighborhood structure plans.
Thanks, Patria. I'm just going to tackle you know what, I'm gonna open the floor to Josh Mackney, and then we'll tackle some more chat questions.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry if I'm re-asking a question here. I've got a 2-year-old who summoned me, so apologies. But I'm a new owner, very new owner, like a month in, and we're just on Edgewater, right backed off against. And correct me if I'm wrong here. Yeah, right there. And I just what I see that we've got natural area, and then we've got a low density residential there. That natural area, is it like, I've heard that is and I think the owner of that area is currently here. Is that an acreage, a farm, and is that going to be like, are those green areas going to be preserved?
Thanks for the question. So right now, those green areas are what has been identified by our environmental consultant. However, because we haven't done field assessments, because we don't represent those lands, and you are correct, the landowner who owns that land is here, and he's one of the next questions coming up soon. So we'll be able to hear from him. But yeah, so right now that's kind of what we are proposing. But obviously, once that landowner does provide his feedback and thoughts, we will be likely revising that around what to him to take his feedback.
Okay, so you're currently saying that those trees back there will be preserved?
They've been identified as things to be preserved, but without any field assessments, we need to further evaluate. Well, they will need to be further evaluated.
Okay, and when you say like a low density residential, is that meaning that we're gonna see houses directly on the other side of the fence to us, or maybe there's gonna be a path, or you don't know the answer to that yet, right?
The details of that would be done at the neighborhood plan for that area. But yeah, the types of housing you would see would be something similar to what you are currently having, but what the actual layout is to be determined.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Next question is from Danielle from the chat. What is the timeline for the completion of this project?
So thank you for the question. The short answer, kind of what Patricia had said, is that we can only control the timeline and schedule for the lands we control, which would be the northwest quarter section there, which is this one right here. For the rest of it, it really ultimately depends on the landowners in those areas and whether or not they would like to proceed with a neighborhood plan and get started on it, and amend whatever area structure plan that gets adopted for this area as required. So it's very difficult to say exactly what the timeline is, but for the for the lands we do control, we would like to get to it right away.
Thanks, Stephen. And I believe you're also answering this question as well from Jillian. She's asking what the timeline for the development north of the church on east side of Coal Mine Road behind the condos at Eastgate Point is anticipated. And my apologies, this is the map is small. I can't quite point out where that is.
Right here, yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
So I guess the only answer we have is that we do know there are some people in that area that are looking to proceed forward as well. So their timeline could be, if an area structure plan for this area is adopted, they would be moving fairly quickly, I would assume as well. But unless there's one of the representatives here, it's difficult to say. But we do know that they are looking to move forward with their lands.
Perfect. And thank you for waiting, Walter, but it is your turn to ask your questions. Walter Miss.
All right. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can.
I've got more than one question, so it's going to take a few minutes for me to go through this. You know the area that we own, the quarter section there. I'd like to start by asking Stephen, how long has Investec been in business?
So Investec's been around for about a decade.
About 10 years or a decade?
That's
Hello?
Sorry,
correct,
yes.
Walter.
Sorry?
Yes. You are correct, yes, 10 years.
And how long have you been acting for Landrex?
Patricia, do you have a good idea answer on that?
We are in for approximately 8 or 9 months.
So you haven't been involved with land recs for very long?
Not to date.
No. And is this the first project that you're doing for land recs?
It is not, no.
It isn't.
Not,
But you've,
yeah.
but your actual projects that you've worked for them, the other projects, all of them fall within the last 8 months.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's correct, yes.
I'm trying to get a handle on what your background is in terms of planning for this whole area, because we've been here for over half a century and farming the quarter that we have there, and are still farming the quarter. And I've been dealing with Larry Andrews, who's the president of Landrex, since he came on the scene here half a century ago or thereabouts. So there's quite a bit of history involved in this area. So you said that you've been involved for 8 months, and I'm looking at the plan that you have, the ASP, this proposed one that you sent out. And on there, it seems to have a date of 2018. What does that date refer to?
That's just our filing system.
So that doesn't mean that this plan was started in 2018.
No.
And we've heard that you only own the quarter to the northwest in this whole ASP area. How is it that you are dealing with lands that you don't own that is part of this whole plan?
Yeah, so when we consulted with the city, it was directed to look at all the lands to be able to plan them cohesively from a high level. We understand that although we only represent that northwest quarter section, this is kind of why we're doing this pre-engagement, to be able to engage landowners and such as yourselves that are within the plan, to be able to get your feedback, to understand what any concerns or things that you would like to see, so we can change this to reflect what your vision is for your lands.
Now, excuse me, you said that the city has requested this, right?
That was the direction. However, yeah, it's for the entire northwest or northeast of this area to be incorporated into a single area structure plan.
Just so I understand it, was this a city that requested you to do this, or did you offer to do this?
So we were looking to prepare an area structure plan for our quarter section, and we were directed to look at the whole area, to look at it at a comprehensive point of view.
Now, could you provide me with a copy of the directive from the city that is directing you to prepare the plan for the lands that you don't own?
Hi, Stephen. This is Christina from the city of St. Albert, and perhaps I can help to answer some of the questions that Mr. Ms. may have. Mr. Ms. might have. We can also have a little bit more of a conversation offline regards to the full logistics. As Stephen said, the city has requested that in order for Landrex and InvizTech and some of the other landowners within the area to proceed with development, we needed to get a more comprehensive and holistic look at what the land uses are, how they're all going to be incorporated, and really more specifically is regarding the servicing of the whole Northeast. All of these lands are interconnected, and the servicing that's required for these lands has to be thought of at a bit higher level so that we can have more proactive planning. That's why Stephen is in the process of asking what are some of the concerns. It does not mean that development will occur on these lands or that it's forcing landowners to develop at this time. It's just to provide a higher level information for the city to make decisions on regarding the Landrex application, and then quite frankly, some other landowners that are interested in development at this point. Does that help?
It helps in part, but the question I have then is, if the city is looking for input, is there any reason why we, since we own as much land as Landrex, and we're in the heart of this development, why we cannot prepare a draft ASP for all the lands, including Landrex's?
That would be also possible. It's just that Landrex came forward first and offered to undertake the studies. If you are wanting to do that, you should be talking to the city and we can have some conversations about that.
Well, what I'm getting at is we have some very fundamental concerns and they've been voiced to the city and they've been voiced to Landrex right from the beginning. And they're not being taken into account on any of this draft. And as a result, the only way to deal with this is to have a plan that's going to deal with our concerns and present it to the city and indicate why we think the development should follow with the modifications that we have. So I like a commitment from the city that if we want to do that, then we will be able to do that. And the city is not going to give preference to Landrex just because they've been doing this. And we've never been given any notice that the city wanted ASP. So are you saying that the city will consider, if we say we will prepare an ASP for this whole area, the city will consider it?
Of course, the issue is timing. So I think at this stage, Landrex has come first, but what we would want, and this is for anyone that owns land in this area or anyone who has an interest in this area, is the reason why we have this meeting today is to collect this input. We've also got the file planner also available to collect information as well, but we do ask that at the very least it gets CC'd to Stephen, because as they're moving through this process, this is a very valuable piece for us to collect the information, to collect your concerns, because it sounds like there are some major concerns with some of the land uses that are being proposed within this area. So please do provide that to Stephen, but you can also CC the file planner, who is Suzanne Bennett.
Well, I'm not talking about expressing concerns, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. What I'm talking about is you have Landrex has come forward, and the city has given them permission to take a look at lands that they don't own without consultation with the landowners to do things on their land. And you are saying, well, they're first, therefore we'll look at them, when you haven't given any notice to anybody that you were requesting this. This has come out of the blue. And now you're saying, well, they've come up with it. What kind of a fair game is this?
If I could jump in for a moment. When we were approached by Landrex and originally had the discussion about having the area structure plan cover a larger area. Oh, I realize that my camera is still covered. There we go. Now you can see me. Hello, Mr. Miz.
How are you?
Good, thank you. The conversation was that we would like all the landowners to work together so that the planning would be comprehensive over the whole area. As Stephen mentioned before, there's some developers on the eastern side of this proposed area that have some development. Some of their concepts have been worked into this area structure plan. So we would really like to see you and Landrex and all the landowners work together and buy in on the area structure plan that's proposed.
Okay, so
just to reiterate as well, if you want to submit an area structure plan application, the city, as through our process, will absolutely consider and take it through this entire process as well.
All right, well, then I'd like to come back now to this proposed ASP that we have that outlines the use of lands, and ask of Stephen, have you looked at Landrex's ASP for Erin Ridge North? The original plan back in July of 2009.
Well, we've been working off of whatever the latest plans are that are adopted for the area, so not the original one from that you mentioned.
Well, then I would like to fill you in on this. Part of the problem, in fact, a lot of the problem that is being caused now by transportation is because of the closure of Coal Mine Road. And back in 2008 and 2009, when Landrex was proposing their development of Aryan Ridge north to the west of us, and their lands to the south, their proposal was to close Coal Mine Road. And we had objection to this because Coal Mine Road has existed for 100 years. It's been the main road to feed traffic into St. Albert Trail from the districts to the northeast. And we had a number of discussions because their original concept was to cut straight through our land. And that would be the substitute for Coal Mine Road. And we said we would object vehemently to this because it would cut our lands in half. The ultimate result of that was that they took into account this, and we tried to compromise with them. And their ASP, if you look in July of 2009, their figure 4.1, they have got the Neil Ross Road going at the angle that you see that it comes in from their lands now. It goes straight at an angle to the north. It doesn't angle to the east, which is done now. There was a little triangle in there that was left, and Larry had suggested purchasing this from us. And at the point we said we weren't going to do anything with it because we can't subdivide a little bit of an angle, a triangle off the land. But the bottom line was he accommodated and we accommodated. So we didn't object to the closure of Coal Mine Road because Coal Mine Road is a major road. And we know, because we've lived here for so long, that that was a major road. And that was the compromise. And on the representation that they would be developing the land, and that land that's now Neil Ross Road would go to the north. We were prepared to sacrifice a triangle of our quarter for that. So the result is they had their ASP for Aryan Ridge North, and you can look at that, and they've adopted what we agreed to back in 2008, 2009. Now, as a result of that, when they were developing, the city of St. Albert also asked us if we would have an ASP prepared for our quarter section of land. Have you looked at that quarter section, Stephen, or our plan by Stantec?
I have not. I did ask, if you do have it, would like to provide it to us, we can definitely look at it and see what we can do to incorporate. But yeah, we have not received a copy of it yet. Well,
The plan is actually background in one of the city's diagrams. I don't have it in front of me, but it essentially has an overall ASP for our lands that was incorporated. And in fact, some of the roads that are connecting the lands to the south of us were made in order to accommodate our plan. So basically, you are telling me you haven't looked at that plan at all either. Is that right?
We have not received that information, so we haven't been able to incorporate it. But there is something that after you had emailed me, I did ask the city to look into it to see if they can provide something to us.
And subsequent to the April Stantec plan, ISL prepared an ASP for the lands to the south of us is Aryan Ridge North. And again, the road that is Neil Ross Road is shown to go to the northeast at an angle and with a small triangle cutting off our land, and it accommodates our roadway system in their plan. And if you look—
Hello, Mr. Miss.
Yes.
Obviously, you have a really big interest in this land. Is there an opportunity that we can meet with you guys on a separate meeting here so we can let some of the people talk? We can. My concern is this, that this meeting is going to be held and is going to be used as a basis for making changes and if we don't get the voice in here, we don't have the opportunity to deal with this, because I haven't finished yet to deal with some of my points, but in summary is this. We had a meeting, I had a meeting with Larry Andrews, the president of Landrex, some months ago, and voiced concern that the proposal that he was trying to sell me was with Neil Ross Road was unacceptable. Now, I'm assuming that, Stephen, you have got some feedback from Larry on this, or have you? Hello?
Hi. I guess I might have to throw that one to either Rob or Patria.
All right, well, as somebody from Investec must talk to Larry or talk to somebody at Landrex that would know what's happening.
Right. So we've been coordinating with Mike, who represents Landrex, not with Larry directly. And so in this, the element that you're referring to of Neil Ross Road and its current alignment in here is information that we actually received from the city of St. Albert. Regarding the information that you've discussed with Larry regarding your ASP and plans for your quarter section, those have not been translated to us. However, as Stephen did indicate, you've already gone through the exercise of preparing the ASP with Stantec, and we're pleased to take a look at that and work with yourselves to implement something that can work. This document is, well, it will become, ultimately it will become a city document. There are opportunities to go through and amend it. Plus there is within the city now this two-tiered process where the ASP is one level, and Christina, correct me if I'm wrong, the ASP is one level, and then more detail will come in within each neighborhood within that area structure plan. So there are levels at which we can, that this will be revisited over time.
Well, I understand that, Petria. The concern is all the discussions in the future, from our perspective, are going to be academic if Neil Ross Road is aligned or realigned the way that it is proposed in this ASP. If you look at the current municipal development plan of St. Albert's, and you look at the map on page 135, you will see the current alignment of Neil Ross Road is to go to the northeast. This proposed ASP disregards all of this history, disregards the current municipal development plan, and it has to be dealt with at this stage. And it is not something that can be pushed off and said, well, this is only an overall plan. The overall plan is very critical to us because the way the plan is set together, it basically destroys our ASP. And nobody seems to have looked at this in putting it together. So what kind of consultation has taken place with any of the landowners is nil. It's all developed from Landrex's point of view, which is concerning to me that this is happening where landowners, their own land is being injuriously affected and they have no input except near the end, which appears to me we have very little say on this. We can say what we want, but basically it's been disregarded already.
I just want to just jump in here quickly. I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, this is actually the beginning stages. Nothing has been decided, and the land use concept is preliminary, and we know it's going to change. So well, I'm really glad that you're able to come today to tell us all this history that you have on the area, and that's kind of why Rob had mentioned that we do want to meet with you to be able to hear more and learn more of this history that you can provide to us. and be able to see what we can do to incorporate the lanes concept that you had prepared for your lands into this concept to further evolve it into something that works, as the city had mentioned, that works for the landowners to the east, to landowners to the central, which is you, and for landers in the northwest. So we really do value that you have attended today to provide this feedback.
And I appreciate your comments, Stephen. What concerns me is this, that St. Albert is aware that this alignment is unacceptable to us, because we met with St. Albert last year conceptually to deal with this road. I met with Landrex representative, as I've told you already. All of this has been disregarded, even though we have said that this alignment is unacceptable for various reasons, but not the least of which, this was a commitment at the beginning when all the development was taking place to the west, that this would not happen. And now all of this is being disregarded. And you've just come on the scene, and I appreciate that. You're new on the scene, but this has got a history that goes back many years. And I'm concerned that this doesn't get basically shunted aside as it's been right now, because you obviously have disregarded our concerns about Neil Ross Road and put it where we don't want it. And that is concerning to me. And on one hand, you say you're going to take into account considerations. On the other hand, you've disregarded everything to date, which is unacceptable. And I mean, if St. Albert has asked you to do this, we can prepare an ASP for all the lands as well, including Landrex's, and come up with a concept that I think will accommodate our concerns and probably be more efficient in terms of the land development, since we are aware of how this area is developed and the traffic patterns and also the nature areas and so on. So that's my concern here. And my understanding is that the development of 127th Street isn't going to take place for at least a decade. During the preliminary discussions about this, and Neil Ross Road, its alignment now has been impacted in part by the fact that the regional agricultural plan was just approved on August, I think, 12th, and it now makes all the lands farmland to the north of the township road. So this major highway that Neil Ross Road was going to be to deal with all the development to the north is not going to happen now. And that's barely a month old, that the agricultural plan for the area. So those things haven't been factored into this. So I've said my piece in here. I'm going to wait the sort of whatever the authorization is from St. Albert to do this, and then we'll take into consideration whether we shouldn't prepare an ASP, or perhaps we have a further discussion with yourselves, Stephen, on accommodating us. So I don't want to take up too much time at this meeting, but I want to put it on record our concerns in the unacceptable alignment of Neil Ross Road.
Miss Grace, this is Ken New here from Investec. I'm also an engineer from Investec. I appreciate you came out and spoke to us about your concerns. Obviously, also the new information to us. I just want to make one statement really quick. You mentioned in your speech, you mentioned that we present this to you after, like, it's almost towards the end of the game. What I want to say, this is not the end of the game. This is the beginning of the proposal. So this is the whole purpose of the public meeting, is we want to hear from everyone else. So for sure, we heard your voice. We know you have major concerns, and this is the whole purpose of public meeting, right? Public meeting is we are the proponent, so we obviously want to know what you are thinking. So I can hear at this time, we will say this is the beginning. We'll work with you. We'll find a plan which can accommodate both the developer and the landowners around it. So regardless, you want to continue your points, we're here to listen, or you want a detailed meeting with us, we can understand every little detail of your proposal. We're open to either ideas.
Well, I appreciate your comments. I certainly would like to accommodate. And in fact, over the years, Larry Andrews and I've been going through various things, starting off with a lawsuit against St. Albert when he wanted to develop, and he and I were parties together. And we've clashed at times at meetings, but we always seem to have been able to accommodate each other. And I'm happy to hear that you're prepared to sit down and discuss this. I don't want to put together an ASP that's going to be a separate one and incur all the costs for it if we can accommodate each other's concerns.
That's absolutely correct. Like Mr. Walter, like that's I know you asked the Investec how many years we have been preparing ASP. We have been doing lots for ASPs. When we started a proposal on the concept, we have said very clear. What we do is we ignore the land ownerships. That's how we can present a complete community, right? We don't want to look at what Landrix owns or what Walter owns. Then we won't be able to create a cohesive plan. In this particular case, we haven't heard any direct impact from Mr. Larry Andrews. This is a concept we come up with, and we put it here. Like I want to state, and this is the beginning of this process. This is our initial kind of thinking ideas, and we definitely, by the time, like I know Stephen mentioned as well, by the time we listen to you, listen to other landowners, our plan should be able to. I cannot guarantee anything, but it should be able to address majority or some of your concern. Like you said very well, you own the court section too. You're a major stakeholder, right? So to us, to the city of St. Albert, for sure, we want to listen, and we want to listen carefully of what you have said and you want to say. Right? So we, like I said, I'm open to you to continue to talk, or we can definitely sit down with you so that we have our transportation engineer, we have our drainage engineer, we have our planner, we have our environment scientists. We can work with you for half a day or one day, whatever times you take. So that part we are very open to. Don't think this is the end that we propose this to you. No, this is the beginning. This is the first step for ASP.
I appreciate that, and of course we're interested in developing our land as well. One of the reasons it hasn't been developed at this point in time, because I've told Larry a number of times that we didn't want to put more land on the market than the market can absorb, and so it'd be pointless for us to develop our quarter and he's developing his quarters, and there isn't enough absorption in St. Albert. So the logic is he's got the land against the highway, which is the prime land. And once that's developed, we're ready to start developing our land. So we're just as interested in getting the overall concept, something that makes our development and his development viable, and they integrate. So I will then wait for some representative of Investec, send me an email, and we'll see about getting a meeting together and then discuss this at length, because I don't want to take up more time of this Zoom meeting. On the other hand, I want it on the record that we are concerned and have serious concerns with the draft, so that it isn't swept under the table.
Yeah. Mr. Walter, how about this next week? Just pick one day. We can decide just one day. You came to our office, or we find a place like we sit down. You can go through every detail with us, and we're not going to drive next week. Just pick a day.
Well, your offices are on 103rd Street and 101st Avenue. What building is that?
It's an old Emirates building.
It's which one?
The old Enbridge building.
Oh, because our offices are only 2 blocks or 3 blocks from your office.
There you go. Just like I said, well, I myself, I will meet with you as well because I'm the principal engineer of the company. So
yeah.
I have mostly experience dealing with the big area development. So
yeah,
I'm very curious and want to meet with you. So why not you pick a day and I will try to accommodate. I'll get the planning team and our engineer team to sit down and go through all that.
I'll tell you what, I've got Stephen's email here. I will look at the calendar for next week. And I'll send you an email with a couple days, and then we'll one way or another accommodate. And then we'll do further discussion then without our taking up time of the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, Mr. Walter. Like I said, your opinion for sure will not be ignored because, like I said, you are significant landowner and stakeholder in the area, and then it's our first step. We want to hear from you. City of St. Albert want to hear from you, and your interest will not be ignored.
Good. All right. Thank you very much, and thank you for your patience.
No problem.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Walter and Ken. Oh, sorry, Stephen.
I was going to say Lilith.
This is where I come in. And Walter, I would like to encourage you to check out the chat box. There were some other attendees who were interested in your issue who may want to connect with you and keep up with updates on that. In the meantime, we have both a raised hand and a chat question from Yevgeny. Yevgeny, the floor is yours.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Could you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, about my language, maybe it will be not so good sometimes. So I'm a resident right on a corner north of E-Hall School. And yeah, right here. Yeah. So my question is, for the 2 years which I'm located here, I see a big migration of the animals. Probably it's from lot 57. It's mooses, deers, coyotes. So I'm really happy that you're trying to save some natural mature trees. But the thing is, could you try to make any amendment, like a corridor or make connections, at least fence-free, through the municipal lands and something like that to make possible at least some migration of the animals around these areas, because I could see that it's a big difference when the water ponds connected to the forest area. So I see much more variety of life in it. And the other thing, maybe, is it possible for city to make a big loop, like a bicycle or skating path across the north end of the city to the west side, to the creek connection, just because it's kind of mess with the planning with the bicycle routes in a deer area, so on the west in area. So I would ask you, could you plan more carefully to make connection between, like fenceless connection between all these major trees areas in the future? And my second question, so you said you will develop recently as soon as possible this area in this area, where all the kids will go, because elementary school, E-Hall School is now overloaded, and all this traffic will go through the Costco road, then turn left, go to the school, turn again, and run against the traffic. So it's a huge mess there in the mornings and in the evenings. And I would say if more students will go to this school, it's completely messed up. So what's the plans about elementary schools, more elementary schools in this area, and when they will be development? Thank you. Basically, that's it.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So for the first question about fences around the park spaces and natural areas, that's ultimately based off the city's standards, how they get developed. I believe typically like natural areas aren't really fenced, but park spaces may or may not be. But good thing you have representatives from the city on this call so they can hear your feedback. And based off that, when someone goes to develop those areas where there are those natural areas, park spaces and everything, that is something that they have heard and will look into see what they can do. In terms of timing, the second half of the question, so that's really a question about students in schools. The good thing is that even if this does move forward in the next couple of years, no one's going to be living there right away. It does take a couple of years, to put the infrastructure in the ground, start building houses and everything before anyone even moves in. So the one thing is that there is a school planned in this area for a high school, potentially. It is up to the school boards as to what they need and the budget they get from the province. So if this does turn to a high school, for example, then the students who are in the other schools would be sent to this school, and then that will leave some space for future students in this
You've been in the
area
industry for as long as you've been. I'm assuming you've been in the industry more or less.
go somewhere else. Yeah. Hopefully that answers the question. Did you have a follow-up?
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. The next question is a chat question from, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing, Javier Lozano. I am relatively new to the community, and I'm wondering if there's a prioritization process attached to proposed land use plan. I suspect that question might mean if there's a phasing plan, but please correct me if I'm wrong.
I would suspect the same thing.
Mhm.
And I guess the main priority, I guess the first stage would likely be, well, there could be multiple first stages right now because they might be 2 or 3 different areas that there are landowners who are looking to develop. We represent the landowners in the Northwest, but as I mentioned, there were some people here looking to proceed. And if Walter would like to proceed with his lands, then you have potentially 3 different areas that could go at the same time. Ultimately depends on whether or not there's servicing available to proceed with development in those areas and capacity to do so.
Thank you, Stephen. If there is no follow-up question to that, I'm going to move on to Curtis's question. Can you clarify what the medium density is west of the church? It would be a shame to see it go to overpopulation.
Yeah, there's no formal plan at this time, but medium density typically means either like a low-rise apartment or townhouses or row housing. So there is an opportunity for that to go there.
All right. I'm just going to scroll through some general comments from when Walter was presenting and look for the next question. One moment, Stephen, my apologies. There's a lot of go Walter in the chat here that I'm scrolling through. Okay, so here is a, sorry, no, that is still, there are a lot of comments. I would encourage everyone to look through them. Okay. Okay, so this one is from Rob and Audrey. Can the city arrange a meeting to enable non-Landrax landowners an opportunity to provide input on plans on this ASP? That would go to the city of St. Alberta.
So the process right now is that we're asking you provide your feedback to Landrax because they are the ones proposing this application, not the city. But we would, if you would like, you can also CC the city so that we can keep you apprised of things in case you're concerned that your input is not being heard by InvestTech. And and Landrax.
Thank you, Christina. Next up is a question from Jillian. Are we able to see the plans around Neil Ross Road that Walter and landowners have submitted to St. Albert? Why are there not all options provided for us to view?
I guess the only answer I have for that is that we do not have that information. Whether the city has that information and is able to provide it, that is their that would be the response to that. But right now for this sec, what we are looking at, that this is what we're proposing. But if there are other options that someone comes forward with, then there would be another public meeting to be able to have those discussions about those other options.
Thank you again. And following up here, we have a question about playgrounds for Matif. It reads, I'm in East Gateway North, just across from Coal Mine. We lack a proper playground near us, the closest being the one adjacent to Lewis E. Hole School. Was a bit disappointed that unlike other neighborhoods in the city, there are no plans to build one. Does your future plan incorporate a decent sized playground?
Unfortunately, I don't have a good answer for you at this time. Usually those kind of things are incorporated into park sites. And we do have a few park sites planned for the whole area right now. Again, potentially subject to change. So if one of those sites gets developed, of those park sites get developed, that a playground could be incorporated into them. It is ultimately up to if it's a school site, how the school wants to develop it, and if they're going to incorporate a playground with their park. There are also some more smaller opportunities, such as pocket parks in this plan, that could also potentially have playground in it.
A question from Danielle and Patria, just a heads up, this may be an engineering question for you, roads engineering. You said the building of 127th Street will alleviate the traffic pressure in Aaron Ridge, Oakmont, and on Belrose. But in looking at the map, it seems to me that Belrose will become even busier with the development of 127th Street connection alone. Developer of the project areas outlined, that's a verb. Develop the project areas outlined and traffic on Belrose will get worse. What's the future plan to manage the increase in traffic on Belrose? And did I just hear that Neil Ross Road will not be developed, will be closed? If so, noise on Belrose will be intolerable.
All right, regarding 127th Street's connection, it is meant to be provided to bypass or allow traffic to bypass and hit major intersections, one of which is Belrose. But currently, right now, traffic has very little choice but to proceed into the city via Belrose, creating opportunities such as Neil Ross Road, alternate collector connections, and then creating a far better intersection where Township Road 544 intersects St. Albert Trail, and making it easier for traffic to turn out and access St. Albert Trail in other locations should help traffic reroute itself, for lack of a better term. I say that traffic is like water, it finds the path of least resistance. And right now, currently Belrose seems to be the outlet for it. But once more intersections and further upgraded roadways are provided, it should alleviate the traffic within the Belrose roadway.
Perfect. If there is any follow-up comments to that, Patria, I will let you know. In the meantime, question from Bill. St. Albert ASPs used to have trail networks shown on them. I'm aware this is a large ASP, but the early identification of trails is critical to prevent conflict when residents buy property and to ensure trail connectivity in the city. I believe trails should be added. Sorry, that is not a question, that is a general comment.
I do have a response to that. So we are only currently looking at the land use concept. The actual area structure plan that gets prepared will have a variety of maps. So one of them will include an open space and trails map. So that is something that will be looked at when the area structure plan is prepared.
Perfect. To Atif's earlier question, there is some support in terms of interest in seeing more playgrounds or recreation facilities in a planning area, just to note that. And then another general comment from Sandy. I feel the city planning should be making sure that collector roads are not being sacrificed so more lots can be sold. Where does our planning department step up and lead?
I do want to comment on that, Lois, sorry.
No worries, please go ahead.
So just want to clarify, in the city of St. Albert, they've recently changed the naming of the roadways. So the black lines here, these are the neighborhood roadways. Those are actually, I guess, in Edmonton terms, collector roadways. So there are those kind of roadways planned in this neighborhood. As well, a transportation impact assessment is being prepared to assess those roads to make sure that there are enough of them and there's enough capacity for this entire development and the stuff around it. So these are things that will be considered, and once we get that report, if there's more required and need to be addressed, they will be revised into the concept.
And just to add a little bit of point of clarification to Ms. Scott's question, this is part of the reason why the planning department has asked for a larger scale area structure plan. In the past, the collectors or the neighborhood roads were done on a quarter section by quarter section basis. And so you ended up with some disjointed road networks, and it did cause us it has caused us challenges with our internal road networks. So that is part of the reason why we're looking at this larger scale ASP process.
Thank you, Christina. Last comment, general comment from Josh, good call on the trails. Let's have more of those. So with that, I don't see any more raised hands, and there are no more questions or comments flowing through the chat. But let's do maybe a last call on those if everyone is in agreement. Stephen, what do you think?
No, I think that's a great idea. If there are any other questions, please raise your hand, write them in the chat. That's what we're here for. And so if you have questions, we'd be happy to answer and hear any thoughts that you have. And as mentioned, Lola had mentioned earlier, this is all being recorded and going to be provided to the city as well. So everything you said, they've heard already, and they'll be able to see it again later.
Stephen, if you don't mind me jumping in just with some, I guess, process information for everyone that's attending.
Absolutely, go for it.
So just to let everyone know, I'm sure Stephen mentioned it earlier, this isn't an application that's complete and not something that we've received and are actually like processing yet. So there's very good chance, probably more likely, that there will be changes made to this before it is received as an actual application by the city. When it is, there's a chance that based on however many changes there are, Landrex and InvizTech may host another open house to present those changes. The city also does a circulation process where we resend the letters, like the invitation letters that a lot of you received, and we post information on Cultivate the Conversation. So once a final application is made, however far down the road that is, that will be available as well for people to comment on directly to the city.
Thank you very much. And as you were speaking, we did have another question come in from Robin Audrey, if low-income housing is part of the plan.
So low-income housing isn't typically a land use, but it can be incorporated through the low-density residential or the medium-density residential or the high-density residential or the mixed use. So there are definitely opportunities for it. Just we're not at that level of details. Those are kind of things that are usually done at the rezoning or like at a permit stage when someone owns a specific piece of land designated for residential. So that's definitely an opportunity, but there's no specific sites targeted for low-income housing specifically.
Thank you. And we have a question from Shelley regarding notifications for these public meetings. So it reads, I didn't receive notice of this meeting until a neighbor mentioned it. Many of my other neighbors were also unaware of this meeting. So how can you ensure we are aware of the next Zoom information session?
So I'll definitely have a chat with Suzanne. We'll find out, I guess, how far this notification went out. We had sent out about 680 letters out. So if you didn't see it, then we'll make sure that you are going to be seen on the next one, because we now have your email, so we can let you know when the next, if there's another event, when that is. As well, this is also advertised in newspapers, so definitely check out the Gazette, because you can find lots of other events beyond this in there.
Perfect. Oh, and I have a couple of more comments coming in, Stephen. First one from Bill talking about the north-south collector running through Walter's land. I believe that's Neil Ross Road. Please ensure city transportation is involved very early in the process, as the land appears to be a potential disaster. So with that said, Stephen, I
The
believe
the city's transportation department will be definitely involved in the process. They review the application, they review the lanes concept, and they'll definitely review the transportation impact assessment. So they are definitely going to be involved in the process and make sure that all the roads that are proposed are going to work, and suggest changes if they don't think they're going to work.
And then we have a question from Dave. How will traffic be managed along East View Street extension with another proposed school and a connection to Neil Ross Road, and connect to Neil Ross Road?
Patria?
So again, that will be evaluated through the collaboration with transportation and the evaluation of the traffic impact assessment. The intent is never to overload our collector roadways, but to provide them as connection points and distribution out to the main arterials. So that'll be an ongoing collaboration. And as Stephen's mentioned, this plan is subject to a lot of revision through this coordination process.
Thank you. And I just noticed that there was a potential question from Linda. There was just a couple of question marks. So if you meant to type in a question, please feel free to do so, so we can answer any concerns you may have. And Dave just has another follow-up comment to your answer, Patria. Reading that road feels like it will be another shortcut from Neil Ross to Everett, which is an issue we ran into before Coal Mine Road was closed.
Understood. And so that's one of the pieces of feedback that is valuable. So again, we can take a look at that and how it rolls into the traffic impact assessment and see if what we can do to reduce what you're describing as shortcutting to me. So if we can limit that, that's better for all the neighborhoods.
Thank you. And then we have a question for Stephen from Sandy. What would mixed use consist of in this plan?
Yeah, so mixed use could consist of a variety of things, but traditionally mixed use is where you have your retail or commercial on the ground floor and potentially residential above, and maybe even office in between that. There's not a set plan for what each individual site will have. It could come as, you know, the market changes and when those sites actually come online. But typically that's what we would want to see. It would be a mix of both commercial and residential uses in there, but it could have some other things such as institutional as well. So it could be a variety of things. It just won't be a singular use.
Thank you. Well, it appears that there are no more questions coming in. There are a few people who have already left the meeting. We have 49 participants right now. Perhaps there's some sort of a summary or a closing statement we can make.
Yeah, Lila, do you want to resend the feedback form into the group chat? I guess in this tech will also be sticking around. If there are no more questions, we'll stick around for another couple more minutes so that if you do have any questions, please let us know. We'll still be here and we will be here to answer any questions if you have something lingering in the back of your mind in the next 5-10 minutes. We will be here for sure.
On top of what Stephen has offered, for any stakeholder or non-owner in this group or in a Zoom meeting, if you have any comments or any suggestion or any kind of preliminary design for your own land, please make sure you contact Investec and Stephen. Again, this public meeting means to gather public input. So if you have any consideration of your land, please let us know.
And I have thrown on my contact information on the slide right now. So again, write down my email address. It was all on the notifications. And if you didn't get one, we should have your information now, and we can definitely make sure you get the information that you're looking for.
Thank you, Stephen. And just as we are waiting for a few more minutes, we do have a comment from Ken Patchlock, who is in agreement with Ms. Peter about infrastructure being fundamental to the ASP. And he believes that it would be prudent to plan in concert with Sturgeon County, which gave third reading to its Valley ASP immediately to the east of the subject area. Surely affordability and sustainability opportunities would result from intermunicipal collaboration. Great, thank you. And let me post once more the link to the survey in case it got lost in the previous message. Thank you, everyone. And the survey's closing date is October 4th. So please, if you have a chance, fill that out. It should not take more than a few minutes, depending on how long your additional comments and ideas for the planner.
And thank you again for taking your time tonight attending this meeting. I know there's probably better things you could do on a Tuesday evening, and especially before winter hits. So we're very thankful for you all. I believe we had up to 70 or 80 people attend tonight. Thank you so much for attending. We appreciate your feedback. We appreciate you taking 2 hours of your life to sit and listen to us. Oh, one last thing, we will be preparing a what we heard report from all the feedback we received today as well. So check for that as well.
Great. I just want to say thank you to InvizTech. And I think at this stage we can close the meeting.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Take care.